Well, I identified a whole range of rather serious concerns which people within the Met and indeed within the media brought to my attention. And they range, of course, from the suspicion that some people have actually taken money to provide stories to the media. The internal inquiry that's going on at the moment ought to either, I hope, lay that to rest or indeed identify the people who have been doing that. But it was also brought to my attention, the most serious issue that was brought to my attention was that the Met and the media, at certain parts of the Met and the media, may have got so close that they were compromised in their capacity to scrutinise each other. That, of course, for me, is the most important issue. It is critical for the public that the Met are seen as absolutely independent and that they act absolutely impartially. And if there's any suspicion that they have not done what they ought to do in circumstances because they were close to any group of people, that is very, very worrying indeed. Very much so. I was very impressed by a lot of people that I met within the Met. There was a lot of people who had different views, but they were thoughtful and sensible, almost all of them. And they want to bring about change. They want clarity about what they do and how they may do it. And they want clear leadership on the ethical standards that are necessary for this area of work. And I really got an impression that people were keen that this was implemented fast. Well, we tried to write a slightly amused, I hope people will take it in that light, a set of guidance in the appendix, which I hope people will have a look at. It was meant to be light, but it's meant to be helpful. And it gives advice about how the media go on, which a lot of us don't know before we have to deal with the media, which I hope will be helpful to people who have to deal with the media, or who maybe have to deal with people sort of off the cuff. They're manning a cordon somewhere and suddenly they're set upon by lots of press. So I hope that people will, whatever job they're doing, will take note of that so that they handle that well. That's not my intention. I'm certainly not suggesting any more bureaucracy. The Met certainly has a lot of it. What I'm suggesting is that people in their normal notebook just keep a note if they've spoken to the press about their job and that what they've talked about, no more than that. And that they should be happy to make that available to their managers if they need to at any point. I say this mostly for the protection of those members of staff. If there is controversy about information getting out or people leaking stuff or improper things happening, and investigations have to take place, unless you've kept a note of what you have done and which makes it clear what you haven't done, you're not protected. And I am concerned that that has not been the case. It's the usual practice in most public services and most businesses across Britain that if you talk to the press, you make a note of who it was you spoke to, their phone number, and a line on what you said to them. Well, I'm absolutely clear and with him on my view that most people working for the Met have decent ethical standards and want those to be universal, and are horrified when they see behaviour which isn't ethical. So I'm clear about that. But I do think that we have to be very careful about not describing some bad behaviour as corruption. There are some people who only describe as corruption if money's involved. I don't do that. And indeed lots of people within the Met don't do that. They say it's about how you go on across the board. And so trading stories would be seen as corrupt by many people, and I would see that as being corrupt. So I think we've got to be careful that we define as bad behaviour, whether we want to use the word corruption or not, I don't mind, but that we clearly define what is bad behaviour and not professional behaviour.